This video is sponsored by BlockerX. My channel started off in what I would now describe as an unsavory direction. Back in the day, I was living at my parents' house and I would talk about the benefits of not jerking your dick. And honestly, have since tried to talk myself out of the benefits of it. I would tell myself, oh, you know, this is definitely a placebo. Like even having gone up to streaks of like 8 months long without busting, I still felt a sense of when I would have a breach of my pure ways, I would get things like back pain or it'd be harder to wake up in the morning. Now I must admit that since I stopped talking about the benefits of nofap, just because I felt I had to expand, I had to move on into something new. I couldn't get stuck just talking about not jerking it all the time. Like I would be embarrassed to tell people about my channel because that was the face of the channel. And also I started making friends in more professional directions. I got into this group chat with Matt Diavella and Joey from Better Ideas and Thomas Frank, Nathaniel Drew, Ali Abdal. These people had much cleaner content and much more like beautiful looking content. And I felt like this little gremlin who just in the corner was talking about the benefits of not jerking off. It was embarrassing. So I decided to pull away and try other things I was genuinely passionate about. Because I always believe that when practicing something like nofap, the focus should be on doing something with it. So I decided to actually show off the benefits of nofap even better than talking about it, which is to do everything I could with it. And for a long while, this discipline really helped cultivate a sense of just effort, efficiency, intensity in all aspects of my life. I basically just walked around every day, horny as hell, and just getting things done. It was awesome. I was so happy. I will admit though that since stopping talking about it, like a year after stopping talking about it, I did go back and watch porn. And the longest streak I ever worked up to after kind of falling off was 30 days. I did get back to a couple of 30-day streaks, a couple of 2-week streaks, and then of course a couple of stretches where I didn't do nofap at all. Which I know for some people would be like, oh, you used to be such an inspiration. Yeah, well, I'm not an inspiration, okay? I'm a bad man, I'm evil. And just like in The Dark Knight, this is true. You live long enough and you stop being the hero, you see yourself turning into the villain. I suppose that's what happened to me. And yet on the other hand, I also began to develop a resentment for the nofap community because they just seem so pathetic to me. It's like I would make this incredible video that was so awesome, I felt like was really cool. I poured all of my creativity into it, and then like a third of the comments would be like, hey man, oh, great video, do you still practice nofap? It's like, did you not just see this awesome video? Why are you asking me about this thing? It actually made me want to not do nofap because everyone who talked about it and did it sucked. However, it's been, 2 years since I've addressed this topic head on, like almost exactly 2 years. The last time I talked about it, I had only just uploaded my Jordan Peterson video. How does one actually practice nofap? And all these years later, I gotta say, I still believe in it. I still have had long streaks, and every time I have a great streak going, I feel great. I actually feel way better. Not only the physical benefits or benefits in terms of mindset, I feel like more honest and pure and like I'm more respectful. I feel like I have more empathy. I truly feel like pornography is enormously detrimental to the brain, maybe especially the male brain, because we're so visual and we're so driven by sex that it's a terrible thing to kill off that side of you virtually. And so there are 5 practices that I want to talk about in this video, 5 things that I'm using to help me keep a streak going and go back to the old ways. This is a return to the retro. We're going old school now, okay? The channel is gonna be less polished and it's gonna be more real. And of course, we're still gonna make dope filmmaking videos, comedy sketches, video essays. It's gonna be better than ever, but it's not gonna have that Matt Diavella polish, okay? I have to accept who I am. So here are 5 rituals that help me win the day and especially keep that streak strong. Number 1 is meditation. I've recently kind of re-gotten back into the works of Tim Ferriss. Back when I first read The 4-Hour Workweek and then Tools of Titans for the first time, I couldn't relate to a lot of the advice in that because, I was just making very little money as a teacher. A lot of the things they talked about having virtual assistants and passive income, like it just did not apply to me in that era of my life. But since those days, like I do make money online, and so their advice is more useful to me and more relevant to me now. And one of the things that you realize reading a book like Tools of Titans is that almost all of Tim Ferriss's guests have some kind of meditation routine. And it's just so telling. And even if they don't have a meditation routine, like the fact that some of them would go for like 10-mile long runs and they would listen to the same song over and over again. If you think about it, that is a form of meditation, right? You're just listening to the same song, you're entering a flow state. Meditation is enormously powerful, and it's especially powerful if creativity or emotion or sentiment has something to do with your work. Meditation lowers anxiety, it improves creativity and discipline, it increases focus, and naturally helps you make more right decisions. Now, recently, for the most part, I am starting to get in 40 minutes to almost like an hour a lot of days of meditation. This is once in the morning after like a morning workout to get my brain going, and then once again in the evening. I can't get that second one in every evening, but it has made a huge difference in not only like keeping a streak going, but also just like being effective and happy in life in general. The second thing is exercise. Cardiovascular exercise, such as going for a light jog for 20 minutes per day, starts the production of a neurotransmitter called BDNF. I've talked about this several times before, but if you get in cardio or some kind of exercise early in the morning, it like is Miracle-Gro for your brain. It like wakes up the brain, it oxygenates you and helps detox from like the night before. It also compels you to hydrate after a night of sleep. If I don't get in that morning exercise, even if I feel I've been effective that day, I just know I'm not. And to the effect of these 2 points, when I exercise and then meditate, it's as if I'm sort of amplifying the effects of both. If you pair meditation with exercise and you get that done early in the day, you will be especially primed to just win. The third ritual I've been doing that has been enormously beneficial in the last 2 months is Mindstorming. Mindstorming is basically a way of killing limitations, because whether we know it or not, we all have like limitations that we just allow ourselves to believe. I used to think making $10,000 a month was like, it was something that I was somehow only allowed to do when I was 30 years old. Why? Because then I'd be old enough to get the experience needed to make that kind of income, or I couldn't buy a piece of property before a certain age. Like certain limitations, it might just be subconscious or primed from early childhood. You see a parent struggling in this department of life, so you think you can't deal with it till then. When you implement something like Mindstorming in your life, it like forcefully compels you to break those limitations. And what is Mindstorming? You basically take a goal that you think is fantastical, but also somehow you believe it is possible for you to achieve, maybe in the next year or maybe in the next 3 years. And you write it down as a question on a piece of paper, and then you come up with as many answers as you can to answer that question. So my question right now is, how can I turn Captain Sinbad into a 7-figure business? A business that generates $1 million a year. Look, I'm nowhere near that. It's actually an impossibly big question. And if I were to simply set a goal of being like, okay, we want to make $1 million, I would never know how to begin. I would not know what to do. But then you write it down as a question, and you don't have to succeed in the pursuit of this goal. You just write it down as a question and you ask yourself, if I had to come up with a list, what would I come up with to try to get this thing done? And then you just don't judge your answers. You keep going with this list of answers. You could ask yourself, what can I do to double my salary within the next 6 months? You would then spend, the next 5 to 10 minutes coming up with as many responses to that question as possible. At least 20 responses is ideal. And you don't judge your answers. You simply review your list. And then importantly, you resolve to act on at least one of those things. If you do this often enough, ideally, if you do this daily, where you come up with a list daily, and maybe you'll like repeat the same questions over and over, but you come up with that list daily, and then you try to do as many things on that list as possible, within probably a month, your life will look radically different. It's amazing. This is an awesome exercise, and it pairs really well with something like the discipline of sex transmutation, because then you're not asking some YouTuber every day, like, are you still on this? You're actually doing what you're supposed to be doing with this. The fourth is really tough. It's a cold shower first thing in the morning. In fact, I've actually started trying to take it to the next level once a week, where I do actually an ice bath every week.
Pain everywhere.
And this one is a little bit esoteric, but I do believe the transmutation of sexual energy, if that is a real thing, which I can't talk myself out of that not being a thing, the most transmutative powers are there first thing in the morning. Because, you wake up alert. You wake up with a state of arousal, right? I used to dream about women when I woke up. Now I just dream about money. But you wake up just pent up, you've got all that horniness inside you. And then you just take a cold shower. And it's just shocking feeling. But it just shoots that energy up to your brain. I don't know why I believe this, okay? But I do. It shoots that energy up into your brain, and then you just feel refined. You feel like you can do something with it. Cold showers are beneficial at any time of the day, but I do believe that they're especially beneficial. You wake up, if you've had a good night of sleep, your testosterone is raging, you're all angry. It works especially well in the morning. In fact, all of these habits, the earlier you can do them and just really prime your brain, it just really gets you going. I want to take a quick pause here to talk about the sponsor of today's video, which is BlockerX. BlockerX is a software. It's a porn blocker that helps you quit porn and complete your nofap journey with greater confidence and drive. You can even have more drive to approach women, right? Because you don't feel so disgusting anymore. And we all know we've seen some disgusting things online. To effectively complete your nofap journey, you might need a companion like BlockerX, which is a complete system that will help you get through No Nut November, okay? Our month is coming, boys. It's very hard to quit porn when you're surrounded by people who think it's okay to watch it. We have a culture that says, oh, this is totally a normal, it's maybe even a healthy thing to do. Christerbating is a totally normal thing to do. It's not, okay? Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But the most common problem with other blockers is that they can be uninstalled easily. Porn blockers never worked well in my life. I mean, when I was younger, my dad installed something called NetNanny, where he was in charge of my internet activity. But as an adult, if you install something like that, you can just uninstall it, you know, even if you create all these like barriers to getting to it. It's like, you can always uninstall it. But with BlockerX, you actually have an accountability buddy, and you cannot uninstall this porn blocker unless your buddy does it for you. And why would he ever do that if you have the right buddy? You know, like Thomas is never gonna uninstall my BlockerX. So I would strongly suggest, if this is a part of your life that you want to clean up, give BlockerX a go. If you use my promo code Sinbad20, you'll get 20% off of premium purchases. It's sponsors like BlockerX that help me reinvest in the channel and make higher quality content. We have some amazing videos planned for December and beyond. A video where I want to play the tabla again, which is an Indian percussive instrument, and get really good at it, like living like Zakir Hussain, who was a musician I was really inspired by when I was younger, when I first started playing tabla at 8 years old. And a video where I live like Gordon Ramsay for 30 days. I'm so excited about that. I think I'm gonna learn how to make pasta from scratch, like take a bunch of culinary classes. And in order to make those expensive, higher budget videos, these sponsorships really help us out. And the benefit of something like BlockerX is that it's a great brand as well. And the final idea, the ritual that helps me win the day, is 3 hours of work on my highlight of the day. I think it's suboptimal to try to schedule 12 to 14-hour days of work, especially if you're doing things like working out, meditating, eating well, living a balanced life, spending time with your family or your friends. I think all of these things are very important. It's useful, instead of planning out like a 12-hour day where you're like, oh, I'm gonna work all the time this week, it's useful to just come up with just a couple things, and in fact, just a couple hours of work every day. Tim Ferriss would often say, if you could only work 2 hours a day, or even 2 hours a week, if you had to force yourself, like maybe you just came out of a coma and you have to take it easy, like what would you do? What things would you focus on? This ties in really closely to the Pareto principle, which says that the majority of things that we do in accordance with our work isn't the most important thing. So if you ask yourself this question of like, what is the most important thing? And you know, there might be a bunch of things you want to get done, but if you can just focus on what the most important thing is and tell yourself, on this day, to make today meaningful, I'm not gonna try to do a bunch of work, but those 3 hours, those 2 hours, I'm gonna get after it, like I'm really gonna do this thing. It's a very, very useful question to ask. And in my opinion, it's one of the most important transmutative practices there is, because there's no point in doing sexual transmutation if you're just gonna sit around just like that meme of that kid who like is next to that girl. It's so pathetic. You have to do something. I'd rather have you jerk it and do things, bro, than just sit there asking me questions about, you know, do I still do this? Can you sense the resentment here? If you can get that thing done, the day was a success. Without it, the day was nothing. I strive my utmost to spend those 3 hours on my highlight of the day, every day of the week, of the month, of the year. This single practice of just 3 hours of work every day, 3 hours of important work, has changed my life completely. And those are my 5 rituals that help me win the day. Winter is coming, and it's gonna be like a self-improvement winter, right? No Nut November all the way to the spring. We're just gonna be like these water buffalo, just like eating good food, lifting heavy, meditating, taking cold showers, and just not busting.